Welcome to What Do You Say, the podcast that peels back the layers of remarkable individuals to reveal their extraordinary sides and their incredible lives. I'm your host, Frank Termini, and I'm absolutely thrilled to embark on this journey with you. The podcast name's What Do You Say, but that's not how it's said.
How do you say it?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
You got it. We say.
Hey.
We good? Sound good?
We on?
Are we on? Are we on the very first unnamed? We'll call it the Frank T podcast for lack of a better word.
See, you didn't know how to start it with no name. See, you're coming right out the gate and you thought you had some and you're like.
So you go with the first no name.
Yep.
Frank. We'll just call it the Frank T podcast, right?
Yeah, we're gonna come up with something as we see.
As we speak, we'll come up with something and figure this whole deal out.
See,
as I'm sitting here with my brother and my main man, Dane Moss, Dane Woodkey, my IT guys.
The only other date I know as of right now.
Right. My IT guys, my marketing guy that's gonna promote this unnamed podcast. And we're just going to figure it out as we go on the fly.
Yeah, that's what I did on ours. And
well, I got plenty of guests lined up, and now we just got to figure out what. You know what I was thinking? So I'm thinking, my mind's spinning, and I'm like, something comes up, okay, and part of me's like, I like this, and then the other part of me's like, if I'm the outside looking in, I think a guy that names his podcast this is just a complete jerk off, right? So I'm just cut down the middle. But I was thinking the sit down.
Why would that make you a jerk off?
I just it would insinuate, right? But the sit down, Drew,
I like it.
You like the sit down?
I think it's good.
Rookie? Well, we can't hear Dan.
What do you think about success unscripted?
Success unscripted. Here's the thing.
Because I feel like the people that you're going to have on have found success. And it's the story of how you get there is different for everyone.
It is different for everyone, right. But here's my thing. The guest list is so incredibly diverse, right? And success is defined so many different ways by so many different people.
That's that's the unscripted story that you're telling. It's different for every single person. That's the glory of it.
Success unscripted. What else you got? Pull out your notes, Dave.
Got my notes.
Pull out your notes. Back to the notes. I'm still like the sit down, because here, the sit down is very arbitrary and your guest can be,
rising through the ranks. Because I feel like everyone you have has came up. I came out the gate swinging with my favorite one. I should have started out lower.
Go on. What else you got?
Hidden hurdles of high achievers.
Nope. Too long. It's got to be concise.
What if you travel down a rabbit hole with the guest that's really not success based, just a real intelligent mind?
See, sometimes I think that's success, though. I think sometimes that people think success is always like
monetary.
100%.
Right. And
there's people I know that have a lot less money than other individuals that I view as 10 times more successful.
Hold on. What about the dude that does what he wants? I shouldn't say just dude or a girl that does what they want, when they want, how they want, and they don't give shit about that. How successful is that? Right? They don't care. Money is not a factor to them at all. I'm so jealous of those people.
100%. I think that is part of it, but it's also, I think when you start having, I think success weighs a lot on how other people view you.
That cannot be a factor, Mike.
I'm not saying in a way of like what you have, things like that, but as being a good person. Like I live by good things happen to good people. And I hope people view me as someone that I live my life the correct way, the way I treat people, the way I handle myself, things like that. That is what I've came to, how I visualize my success and what I do is just what my name kind of has weight. behind it.
Sure. And
And-
I think a big part of it is, listen, you adopt this set of principles, right? And under no circumstances are you going to deviate from them. And even if those principles aren't aligning with someone else, they'll still respect you because you ain't deviating from yours.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I think, being strong enough to do that is also a big achievement.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think in this podcast, you're going to have a lot of people that, if you start peeling back those layers of what success is to them, you're going to start finding a lot of people that have different ideas and different morals and different values of what that looks like and how they live their life by it, which I think a lot of people listening, that's what they want to hear. It's what does that person's mind run and operate like that has led them to where they're at?
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that makes us all different is the mind that we carry. So how is the mind?
Perspective.
Yeah. So how does your mind run and operate so differently than the next person to lead you down a completely different path?
Yeah.
It's an unscripted story. See, I told you I came out with.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
Keep them coming.
See, now all my longer ones, you have me.
I don't like long ones.
Yeah.
It needs to be quick and easy, right, Drew?
I had from struggles to success, but I feel like that kind of narrows. Like I feel like not everyone has struggles. So
Right. Now there will be some people. There are
Yeah.
some people who, like the first guy that I'm going to have on here. I mean, he got dealt a shit hand. He's a very dear friend of mine, and I'm still dying to hear the intricacies of the story. Because he's an overcomer. We know what else we need to probably do. We probably need to put what are those things where you put parental guidance, right? You don't want a teenager.
Like a rating.
Yeah, something. Because like me, I'm not someone who's going to drop a bunch of F-bombs, but sometimes I fucking slip, Andrew.
But the other thing too, though, is like I feel like if I had a child, I'd want them listening to these things. Where it's like
Could be, yeah.
if somebody's cussing, then this is probably something a lot better than half the shit they're listening to in their
You wanna
life.
Here's something funny. There was you ever heard of Cat Williams?
No.
Okay. Cat Williams is a stand-up comedian, and he delivered one of the best messages about not caring about what people think about you, and actually, when you have people, what he would refer to as hating on you, then you're doing something right.
Oh, 100%.
And there was F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb, but I had to get Gianna, and I'm like, sis, you have to come listen. Ignore all the F-bombs. Just let's get down to what this guy is saying, And he said, if you got 10 haters, you better hope by tomorrow you got 20. And if you get 20, you better hope you get to 40.
I always say the more successful you get, the longer the line of haters becomes.
Yeah.
And you look at it in every industry, and in the line of business, I see a lot of people that try to cater to everyone.
Right.
And they want to own 100% of market share. It's not going to happen. Own your market share.
Right.
Be in line with the people you want to be in line with. I don't care what side of the fence you stand on, where you stand, own your market. And guess what? The other side's not going to like you. And just own it.
But here, how many people will listen to you because they don't like you?
There are a lot of people who follow you. They're waiting for the fall.
Hold on. I'm telling you, that Bill Maher, I used to cringe when I listened to him. I'd get aggravated every single time I turned him on. Every time he was on, I would listen to him. Every single time he was on, I would listen to him, and I would get so infuriated. I mean, so it's just that thing like, hey, is there really any such thing as bad publicity? Like, here, if half the people are listening to you, just waiting for you to just plummet into the abyss, and the other half are listening to you because they thoroughly enjoy it, you still got both people listening.
See, one of those ends up just being a really big chip on your shoulder. Like, I like that chip just to keep growing and getting bigger and bigger. And that's the fuel driver to where when it's 4:30 in the morning, you don't want to get up. Look at that chip that you have on your shoulder.
Right.
When it's 10 o'clock at night, you don't want to do something. Look at the chip on your shoulder. And it's like all those people that are expecting you to fail, that they're watching you, waiting for it, just make sure they never see it. And that's like, it just drives and fuels me that I can work 16 hours in a day but it's like, it's from all the people when I first started, that when I said I was going to start a marketing company, 90% of people came to me and they're like, that like 98% fail in the first 2 years.
Same thing when I opened up Core Physical Therapy.
I go, what about the other 2%? Nobody had an answer for that.
Right.
I go, because that's where I'm going to live. I'm not living in 98% that you're following.
Yeah, what you just do is you end up surrounding yourself with people who believe the same.
100%. Your circle changes really quickly.
And then you look, because if someone's going to sit there and speak that over you, right? Well, that's no good. You got to be around the people that are going to speak the opposite stuff.
And a lot of times it's people that you think that you're close to. And that's the worst part.
Well, here, listen, there's a difference between someone being in your circle and being in your corner.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in your circle that aren't going to be in your corner.
Yep.
So you just gotta, that's why as you get older, your circle really gets smaller and smaller.
It's
to those folks that are in your corner.
And I think a lot of times people they think that inner circle has to be really big of like amount of people. And I'm reading a book right now. Actually, it was in my last book that I read, but it talks about having the power of one more. Ed Milet talks about your inner circle and how I think he says it's like up to 5 people that when you start surpassing that, those relationships aren't the ones, it's not going to be the genuine relationship that you need.
Right.
And I work really hard at making sure that inner circle, that they're not yes men.
You want to challenge you.
I want people to challenge me every single day. It's like, I know my thought process isn't 100% right.
Yeah.
It's,
your jokes aren't all funny.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely not that funny. But when you're going on those things in life and business and relationships, whatever it is, like probably the person that challenges me the most is Madison. Like she challenges me more than anyone.
Oh, my wife does too. Like with this podcast, she's like, "What are you doing this for?" And you know what? I don't even have the answer for it. You know why I'm doing it? Because I want to.
Yeah.
Here, I had a great time when I was on yours. It was so fun. And I'm like, I know so many interesting people whose stories I want to hear. Right? Now, does that mean that, there's a whole audience out there that wants to hear it? I don't know.
So I will say in today's world, attention span is the most valuable thing you can go after. Attention span is more valuable than money. Why do you think professional athletes get paid what they get paid for endorsement deals? It's because they have an audience. Towards when you look at a podcast, podcasting is so much different than anything else going on in our space right now, that you have the social media craze of marketing that's happening right now. It's the most dominant form of marketing. But it's short form video. You're chasing people for 30 seconds of their time. Now, all of a sudden, you start a podcast. When we get one person to listen to this, you're competing against Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney Plus. You're competing against a whole different beast. You're standing into a different arena.
Right.
You're capturing an hour of someone's time.
That's not easy to do.
Yeah, no, not at all. And then when you do a good job at it, you can capture their time again and again and again. And it's like, so podcasting is a whole different space, and it's the people running podcasts and also the guests coming on. I mean, there's weight in both sides of it. And I listen to podcasts all the time, and I get information from them. I learn things. I get nuggets, and it's like
there's a podcast for everything.
For everything.
Everything.
And that's where
a strength and conditioning podcast called Run the Power.
Yeah.
I listen to it all the time. Learn tons of stuff from it.
And that's where I kind of thought the honing in on success stories is something that you get a lot of high level individuals in that funnel. And then you'd also get a lot of people that think that way that don't have the people around them that think the same.
Right.
You're going to get a lot of people that kind of come in that like, I want to be successful, but I don't know where to start. Or they're in that rut that they're like, hey, I want to be crazy successful, but just everything's kind of rained down on my shoulders and I don't feel like I can do it. And they get on and they listen to one podcast and they're like, where was this guy at?
Right.
Like, I felt that way in my business when it felt like everything was crumbling down. And then I'm in Utah and I'm listening to Andy Frisella that owns First Form, and he's talking about making $58,000 in his first 10 years, living in the back of a supplement superstore. Now he's a billionaire that owns First Form. I'm like anything's possible.
Sure.
But it just changes that mindset. And it's like, that's what I think a lot of the people that you have on are going to have something similar to that.
Well, and at the end of the day, grinding is the great equalizer.
Oh yeah.
You know, so just how far are you willing to take it? How much are you willing to work?
A lot of people aren't willing to work.
Here, listen, I've gotten myself. It's not that I'm not willing to work, but am I going to put 80 hours a week in like I used to? No, I refuse to do it. It's not going. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's just not. So, but to say I'm not going to work, no, I'm going to always work. But I'm not going to miss what I missed.
But I also think that your guys I'm going to say your generation's built different than mine.
Yeah. Oh, here and here's the thing with you. Like, I have way more like-minded people like with me and my generation. You're unique to your generation.
I have my friend group is 20 to 30 years older than me.
Right.
Like it's pretty typical.
Millennials, I mean, they don't have your work ethic.
No, my dad instilled a different work ethic in my brother and I that is, I feel in my age group is pretty unmatched.
Yeah.
But it's like, I feel we're running a lane of our own that when my dad was coming up in business, everyone was doing. Like, I mean, he's in an arena with.
Well, and that generation grinded way more than mine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So but they also didn't have the choice either. You know what I'm saying? So here, how many people my generation are college educated versus the generation mine? You know what I mean? That wasn't something that they did. Like my dad's generation, I don't know any of his friends at college.
But it's also, I know all these guys that are a lot older than me that don't have college degrees that have all absolutely just killed it from working hard, working smart, and figuring things out and like always progressing.
From a financial standpoint, the two most wealthy guys I know went to jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't go to college, they went to jail.
And I look at the most useless thing I have is my college degree.
Here, Steve Harvey spoke to a group of college graduates, and the dean kicked him off the stage because he said that college degree don't mean shit.
And kids nowadays are being like pressured in their head, being told that college degree like owes them something, that they're given something because they get this piece of paper. I promise you, it doesn't.
No.
And I've had people sit down in front of me that want to work for me that are 1,000 times more credited than I am. I'm like, I make 10 times what you make. And it's like, but I outwork you day over day over day.
Yeah.
Like, not even a question, because if I have somebody sit down there, like, do we live at 5 exactly every day? Get the fuck out. That's not who I want.
Yeah,
so
you're not going to cut it.
It's definitely different. There's a lot of generational.
Does it sound good?
Sounding good. So there's a lot of different with generational, and I think you're probably gonna have a wide variety of people on. And I'm always intrigued with people's outlook on a lot of times how they view success. Like every single person you talk to is probably gonna view it differently.
Sure. Oh, here. Yeah. And I see some of these people, and they're fine going to work, and then they come home and they have time to do, whatever it is. And then they put their head on the pillow at night and they go to sleep. And there's a lot to say for that. You know what I mean? Versus, the entrepreneur who's sometimes you'll drive yourself crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
You're up all night long, can't sleep. Your mind won't stop racing. And it's almost like you're being tortured. Like, oh my God, please just turn off for me 10 minutes. So but the entrepreneur, that's the one who takes the risk, right?
And I think that also, it gets to a point where you start learning your mind. You start learning how to control your mind. I used to never understand how to turn my mind off. And it's like, I've become really good at turning it off. That like, it wasn't fair to Madison that I ran work 7 days a week all the time. And it's the only thing through my head.
Well, and then also you're there, but you're not present. And I hear that it took me here. I owned Core Physical Therapy for 13 years. I bet it took 6 years for me to be able to just shut it off and just say, you know what? It's Friday. The week's over. I'm going to dinner with my wife, and I'm going to actually engage and talk to her. Because it's countless times that we would go to dinner after a week's work, and I would just sit there stuck in my head.
So
And I wouldn't even talk.
So I started taking it as I'm so integrated on trying to level up business all the time and growth in business. I was like, what if I take that same energy and that same thought process and I put it into my relationship?
You
And-
have to.
Yeah. And then I start doing it with myself. I'm like, if I take that same energy and the same thought process and I put it into changing myself. And once I started doing that, it was like, now I read every single day and it's not even like a thought process on it. That's just part of me growing myself.
Yeah, you discipline yourself to do it. And
That's part of going to the gym. That's part of when I make a decision on what I'm eating. It's part of the decision on taking Madison to dinner, going out, doing something with her. I've put all those parallels together and said, you bring all these lanes, and most of the time people get so integrated in one lane, they forget about the rest.
1,000%, which
Yep.
is probably part of the reason why 66% of marriages are ending in divorce, because
100%.
people are not being intentional with their relationship. You know, you have to be intentional with it.
Mhm.
Because time isn't just going to fall in your lap.
No.
You know,
If you ever think you're going to do something in business and find more time somewhere,
good luck.
yeah, it's not
Yeah,
happening.
good.
Like that's going to be
Yeah.
which I will say that's something in business that I've started focusing on is more operations and processes, which actually has freed up a lot of my time in the ability to go do things with, which it was something when I was chasing the path of more growth with Madison, I had to figure out something different in another lane to get that time. And I figured out how to do that without compromising anything in that lane. And it was, my processes were off. I started looking at those processes, digging into them and saying, hey, XYZ isn't right. I can optimize my time better during the day if I do this, this, and this. And once I started doing those things, it started freeing up time to where I wasn't stuck at the office till 9 o'clock at night. And I was actually more efficient with my time. So I'm crazy into like time management. Like it's something I like live by.
So, here for me, and so my partner in the transportation company, I already, is my most valuable commodity, my time.
That's everyone's most valuable commodity.
Well, he doesn't realize that yet. You know, he doesn't realize that yet. So for him, it's money. And here, listen, I respect.
Trust me, there's more money out there. If you want to pull up, we can pull up the U.S. Debt deficit calculate, and it'll pay off your house. Like that U.S. debt climbs so fast, you can pay off your house in probably like 35 seconds. Like you start looking at those things that it's like money is just fictitious numbers out there nowadays, and all you're trying to get money for is to buy time. You run a pyramid in life, and you run it as survival. That's you trying to get food, get a roof over your head, the basic necessities to survive as a human being. You hit status. Status is you can buy the cars, you can buy the house, everything like that. Then you move to freedom. Now you've made enough money where you can buy your time. Now you've invested in things. You start understanding leveraging of time. Then you figure out your purpose.
Right.
Most people never even touch freedom or purpose in their lifetime because they're so stuck in status.
Well,
and that's because there's always going to be more money.
Right. Well, and the other thing is they're buying a bunch of shit that they don't need for status, you know? And so, like, for me personally, I'm not spending money or going into debt for, say, I'll go into debt for an experience.
Oh, 100%.
You know, I'll go in debt for an asset, but I'm not going in debt for anything other than, you know, an experience or an asset. I just won't do it.
Yeah.
I just won't.
And that's,
you know, so if I want a car and I can't just go buy it, I'll drive that 2016 Tahoe till the wheels fall off.
but what a lot of people don't understand also is like when you're making money and you're buying cars, you're depreciating them, you're running and gunning the way I drive high dollar trucks, and everyone thinks that they think I just have this huge depreciating asset. I buy them every single year. They don't get over 15,000 miles. I make money on those trucks every year. I trade them in.
Right.
I have a truck that had a sticker of $98,000 and I finance $45,000 on it from equity of other trucks that I only started doing this 3 years ago. And I get a write-off depreciation.
Because you get to write all of it off the first year, correct?
So I write the whole thing off, which is
Yeah.
like, you get like 25-something%. and then you get 15% capital gains on your following year trade in. So it's like you're catching 10% on, which on $100,000 you're catching 10 grand.
15 grand. Yeah.
So payments less than $1,000 a month on what I'm actually financing on them. For what I save taxes wise, all I really pay for a year is diesel, which I also get a write off all of.
Right.
So it's like that's where how people comprehend and understand things is people are like, why do you have these high dollar cars? I'm like, because they make sense. And it's when you can make sense of those things, like my personal life to run does not cost me a lot from what most people think.
Well, yeah, you don't have kids yet.
That is also true.
You don't have kids yet.
So
that's the game change.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have a feeling when that day comes, it's going to my motivation level is going to probably get pretty out of control.
It will, but then you're also going to have this grappling between, here, listen, it goes by so fast. They're only little for a small amount of time, and you're not going to want to miss any of that.
Yeah.
You're just not. And that's when you're going to start trying to work efficiently, smart. I mean, you think you're doing it now, but wait till you see that baby. That changes it.
I've told Madison before, when I have a child, I want to be 100% fully free. I want to be 100% in control of my time. Where just in the last 6 months, probably the first time since I opened MMG that like I left for Mexico for twice for a week each time, and like I'm gone and nobody calls me. It's all handled. Like,
can I tell you something?
Yeah,
100% control of your time is a figment of your imagination. And you can be 100% control of you, but you ain't ever going to control no time.
I control my time.
There's no such thing as time management. The only thing you can do is manage yourself.
I think a lot of people waste a lot of time. They say they're at work, but they're not working. And there's a lot of people that are doing shit, but they're not actually doing shit.
So
go to the gym in the morning. How many people are in there dicking around? And I'm guilty of it a lot of times too. So I'm not calling anyone out.
Between being busy and productive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there's plenty of people who are busy don't get shit done.
Oh yeah. There's people that's my dad's told me my whole entire life since I was a little kid. It was always told me work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And he lived by that. And it took me forever to understand that because I just had this work ethic. I'm like, Dad, I can outwork everyone. I was like, no matter what, I was like, oh, I'll get there before them. I'll stay after them. I'll get more done when they're here. And it was like, but it was me just selling time.
What are you, 29?
Yep.
You can do it. You should do it.
I don't have to do it now.
Right. But I mean, why not?
Like, I still grind really hard, but like when I'm working, like my deal is I have my hands in so many different things that like MMG's doing like company acquisition now. Where now I'm trading for company, percents of company because we run cash flow heavy enough that I can take a percentage of company and then cover their marketing as they get launched. So it's like I'm doing different things like that now.
So instead of them paying you, you're just taking a piece of the company.
Yeah, to where then it's like 5 years from now, it's going to make it a lot bigger beast to ever try to take down. And it's playing a long game because most people in business, I think, fail because they play such a short game all the time.
I only see what's right here, right in front of their face.
100%. And that's the difference if you're playing checkers or you're playing chess.
Yeah.
The chess players in business win. And it's like, how many moves in front of yourself are you playing?
Right.
That I have things happening now that I was positioning 6 months ago. I have relationships that are coming to fruition now. I started 2 years ago.
Right.
That's like, but when those things come, it's like, I've always been playing that game in front of itself. And if you're focused on what's right in front of you,
you're missing out.
You're not going to make the right decisions too.
Yeah.
You're going to make a quick, rash decision that is out of emotion or it's out of being desperate or something.
Every emotionally charged decision I've made has bit me in the ass.
100%. Like,
and you know, it's crazy. There's so many times where I'm like, this is a bad decision. It's consciously a bad decision. This is going to cost me money. Fuck it, I'm doing it.
Yep.
You know, it's terrible when when I get mad or oh God, it's so bad when I do that.
I think it was,
and I actually every year I get better and better and better at it. You know, and there's so many times where I have to look at it and say, okay, one of my buddies was in this situation. How would I advise them? and let's follow that, because when you can take the emotion out of it and think clearly, you can make a good decision. But man, those emotionally charged decisions, they'll make you hear, you'll go broke, cousin.
Oh, 100%.
You'll go broke, cousin.
I had to figure it out in the car business really quickly because, I was dealing with 100 plus clients a month coming in buying cars, and I dealt with the dumbest shit on a daily basis. Like, I could write a book about what I had to deal with. And I was only in it like full time for 3 years. I sold cars through college. I started buying cars, so I was doing our buying. I was helping doing the marketing. Just all these. I had my hand in everything, and it was like I wasn't the one in charge, which was probably a good thing that I wasn't at the very top of the totem pole because it kept me at bay. And that 3 years taught me about patience. It taught me to control those emotions, that I can't say what I want to say. And it actually gave me a lot of growth in that period and things I didn't know I needed growth in that lined me up really well to start MMG off on the right foot and have some of those skills that takes a lot of people a lifetime, I feel like, to learn.
For sure. So I want to switch gears for a second.
Cool.
All right. Speaking of MMG and Moss Marketing, what's the knee-jerk reaction? 30,000 square foot view, right? How does Moss Marketing Group promote whatever we name this podcast?
You want me to give out all my secrets on here?
No, you don't.
No, but realistically, like I tell marketing companies all the time how to do it, and they still can't do it because to scale anything, you need exposure. Marketing is super easy on anything that it runs the same funnel down: exposure, traffic, sales. And most people can't keep it that simple. Most people want to overcomplicate it, try to throw in their extra parts of the funnel, whatever.
Reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, exposure, exposure. So say we launch this podcast and we do absolutely nothing with all of the film from here. We just post on YouTube and we post it on Spotify and Pandora, Apple Podcasts, everything. And we just go about our days. And you're at the gym. You're like, hey, man, you need to check out my podcast. Hey, man.
I don't want to have to do that at all.
Exactly.
If I have to do that, it's fair.
I don't tell anyone about my podcast.
Unless you're going to ask them to be on it.
Exactly. Right. That's the only way. And 9 out of 10 people already know I have a podcast once that question comes up.
Right.
And I never had to tell them about it.
Yeah.
But we cut reels out of them every single day. They go up on Facebook. They go up on Instagram. They go up on TikTok. They go up on YouTube. So you end up with this like omnipresence of marketing out there that you only need to capture. You capture somebody for that original marketing that we were talking about that's 30 to 60 seconds. You capture somebody on that, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? This is a guy I want to listen to. Then you just pull them from exposure at the top, and the podcast funnel's a little. You're gonna traffic and sale kind of the same thing. You're not selling a product.
Is there a means for people listening to you, like say your podcast, to give you some feedback saying, "Hey, we'd like to hear more of this, or we'd like to hear more about this part of the cast. We'd like to hear,
I think so, but the only problem is when you start getting a pretty high level of exposure, like, and I'm not even going to say my podcast is off the chart, but I get like 1,500 downloads a week.
What's good?
Do what?
What's good?
I don't know. I feel like 1,500 hours of listen time in a week is pretty solid.
Okay.
In my mind.
Yeah,
I've
never benchmarked it, so I have no idea.
So I look at that as podcasts are monetizing normally at 500 to 1,000. So you're getting into a space where you can get paid.
500 to 1,000 hours a week, or 500
like downloads.
To 1,000
yeah.
down. So what's preventing you from monetizing yours?
So mine wasn't something I ever really created it as needing to. So mine was an extra entity that marketing had always been sold the same way, and people don't trust marketing people. Quite frankly, I saw on the other side of the table. I absolutely hated them. But I saw how many breaks were in the space. The market share was wide open. And when I saw the podcast, and my thought process was it was a way to backdoor sales.
See, I don't look at, like, for me, I've recently stepped into the sales game. I stopped treating patients at the very end of July. and people who bought the home health agency wanted me to come on and do sales for hospice. I don't sell that. I just educate people, right? That's like, even when I was trying to generate referrals for core physical therapy, I'm not a hard seller, right?
You don't need to be.
I'm just simply educating you on what it is we do. Okay. Now, if what we do can make your life easier, great. Then you should use us. If what we do is if it's not going to make it easier and it's not going to make it harder, well, what can we do in that situation to make your life easier? Is there something, and then you just start asking questions and educating them on what you can do. Sometimes it's like, it's just not a fit. What you want and what I can do, it doesn't jive. And so I don't want your business.
So in sales, I always look to try to be like the challenger's seller. Like there's a book called The Challenger Sale, and it's challenging people in what they do. And it's going back to not being the yes man. It's having those, I'm almost confrontational when it comes to selling.
So you are a hard seller.
Not in like me trying to close them, but I'm confrontational in like what their business looks like. What are you really actively doing to scale your business today? I know you sit here and you're telling me that you have all these grand ideas and you're telling me about your goals and everything like that, but you have no roadmap in front of you. So right now you just sound like an idea guy. And there's nothing I hate more than idea guys. Like I'm an action taker. Like when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going after doing it.
Right.
So it's like the challenger sale is like, how do you position it in challenging their thought process? Like challenge somebody in the way they think. Challenge somebody to look at their business differently. So now all of a sudden, if I take a podcast and we start off you going around shaking hands and kissing babies trying to get people listening to your podcast, or I tell you I can put up a reel and a reel gets 2,500 views one day, or you get one that's at 5,000, you get one that I had one last week at 80,000. How many people do I need on the streets to go hit 80,000 people to try to drop them into my podcast?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. Like, so it gets to where the numbers almost like it becomes so much larger than what you think is possible. And that's when you have to challenge people in every type of sale is I'm not, if you're sitting there and somebody's saying yes to you the whole entire time, you're not saying the right thing.
Right. Yeah. I get it. There has to be a little bit of discourse.
Yeah. There's something that like, and I'm speaking very much from like the B2B, like business sales that, B2C, when you're selling product, things like that, selling on cost per sale also makes a big difference. That if you have a $5,000 car, person comes in and says, hey, I want the car. Like, okay, I'm not going to say that's selling.
Right.
Like during COVID, selling cars, everyone could do it. The car was more valuable than the customer.
And so Michelle's like, here, what makes you think people are going to listen to you? I said, I don't know if they're going to listen. I'm not. It sounds weird because clearly you want people to listen to you and to get views, but it's almost like, here, this is something I want to do. This is something I had a lot of fun doing. These are some stories that I want to hear. So I said the word I 3 times. You know what I mean? And I'm just going to go. So
the funny thing is, when I first started, I was about 20 episodes in. I was pretty close to saying like, hey, I'm done with this whole thing. I hadn't got any clients off of it. It was like, that was my original idea of what I was doing with it all.
To get clients.
I was like, if I need people to know who I am. I smoke cigars on my podcast. I drink whiskey. Like, I mean, you're going to get 100% of who I am. If you like me, great. If you don't, I don't care.
Right.
But it was like, I needed people to see that person. And I hadn't figured out how to do it up to that point. So 20 episodes in, I was just kind of like, dude, like, I'm putting a lot of time into this. And I mean, we started from ground zero. We didn't know what we were doing podcasting wise. And I was throwing it all in.
You're not telling me nothing.
And at this point, it wasn't like I had a bunch of extra money to burn either. So I'm like, I'm new in business.
If it wasn't for you three, I just have an idea.
Yeah.
I'd be your idea guy.
But I very much respect people too that have an idea, that take action on it and actually turn it into something. So at like 20 episodes, it was like our 22nd episode I put out. I got like 3 deals in 1 week off of it. People like reach out, they're like, hey man, been listening to your podcast and everything. I think we'd be a great fit. These are clients to date. We're at like 80 something episodes. To date, we still retain all those clients. So I'm like, holy shit, maybe it does work. And then what's even cooler than that is when we had probably about like 30 to 40, I started having people message me like individually on Facebook and Instagram. People I went to high school with, people I haven't talked to since like 7th grade.
Right.
Like, hey man, I really enjoy listening to your podcast. I really need it every single week. I had a guy that we drive our trucks down into the river market. I had a guy reach out to me. He found the M3 podcast off of seeing all of our trucks come in with the big crowns on the back. And he's like, dude, I was trying to figure out what you guys do. That's most of the time people are like, what the hell do you guys do? We're driving big diesel trucks and everything. Look way different than typical marketing people.
Right.
And he found our podcast. He's like, dude, I've been listening to your podcast. This is the coolest shit I've ever seen. And sends me this whole thing. And like, he listened to a whole podcast and he picked out like a 5-minute chunk of it that he's like, I needed to hear that this week. And I was like, this is way cooler than getting clients off of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Change the trajectory of someone.
if one person, if you catch one person a podcast, if I take my 80 podcasts I've made, if I've changed 80 people's lives, I'm killing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing good.
It's worth it. Yeah,
So it's
I
like,
agree.
that was my idea of the podcast has changed as it's progressed because I never even thought that people would listen to me like that. It was like, I didn't think I had a voice like that people would listen to. I think that's a lot of times people, you get on it and you're like, oh my God, I have a voice. Like your podcast, there's a shit ton of downloads on your podcast.
I don't even, how do you check that?
So I have it like it's on a back end tool that like we see all the downloads through Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But like, I think like YouTube, I don't really gauge it off that because I mean, I'm not going to watch a podcast. Like,
Right.
you're videoing it most of the time to catch, which the crazy thing was, I think your podcast had like 400 or 500 views. That's somebody that sat there, like, I don't know if they put on their TV or what they do with it, but they watched it. Like,
Not just listen to it, they were watching it.
yeah, so I listen to podcasts in the truck all the time. So we are normally running like 5-1 on like audio to like visual.
So 20% of your people, well, yeah,
Yeah.
around 20%, a little bit less.
Yeah. But like, I sat there and like your podcast, I guarantee there's people that needed to hear that story.
Yeah.
That needed to hear something in there that was like, okay, I'm not alone. Somebody else has went through this.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that are going through something that feels so alone that they don't have somebody in that circle. They don't have somebody in their family. They don't have somebody that's went through the same thing they're going through right now. And it's like, they need to hear that story that says, all right, this guy went through it and he got through it.
Getting through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or getting through it, got through it, wherever they're at.
Right. You don't ever get through it. You know, that's something you just kind of constantly are,
Yeah.
you know, so, you know, and that's what's interesting about a lot of guests, you know, that for whatever reason, it's like, it seems like whoever finds success, it's like the common denominator is they have to go through shit to get there. You know, some type of,
I really wish it wasn't that way.
but it just, you know, here I was listening to, you know, speaking of reels, there's, and the interesting thing is once you're on Facebook, when you stop and listen to a reel, it seems like Facebook picks up on that. And then now every time I turn it on, the same guy pops up over and over again. And you think I'd been smart enough to figure out what his name is. This big black pastor. Have you ever seen him on? You're not on the mic, so you can't talk. But he's on Facebook. But he said it's like he said it seems to me whoever God uses the most, he crushes the most, and that just kind of resonated with me, you know. And so that's why it seems like, you know, people who become successful and, you know, are using it for good, it's like they're always going through some shit, you know?
Yeah.
Or the other perspective is if you're onto something, right? And you're on the verge of helping someone, taking someone out of the darkness, elevating someone, lifting someone up. Maybe it's the other perspective is now it's the enemy like trying to come at you. You know what I mean? To prevent you from progressing, you know?
Yeah.
And here, another real. It was Stephen Furtick. He's one of my favorite pastors. You ever listen to him, Andrew? Yeah. Yeah.
He's back.
Dynamite drop. He gosh darn it, now I lost my train of thought. Where was I at? Where was I at? Stephen Furtick. But what was I talking about before?
You saw a reel. I mean, that's where everything always starts, pretty much. I saw a reel.
It was a reel. God darn it.
Man, you were coming in like hot with that one too.
I was coming hot too.
I was ready for something big.
It was big. It was big. Here.
Yeah, this is gonna be like a 2-minute reel. People are gonna be really hyped right about now.
so he said that if it's coming against you, it's coming against your family, it's coming against, what does your enemy believe about you that you don't? And so I was really impressed with that, because sometimes, things get chaotic. There's tons of turmoil in your life. And your first thing is, well, here, I'm going to throw my hands up. I'm done. You know what I mean? When maybe that's when you got to put your heels in and really start getting after it. Because I remember when I started coaching football, like here, I don't have the best football IQ. When Simone said, hey, I want you to be the strength and conditioning coach, great. I can do that in my sleep, right? That is not even a challenge. Okay. But when it changed to, okay, well, you're going to have to coach the JV as well. Oh, and you're going to coach fullbacks and linebackers. Well, now you're just coaching linebackers. I'm constantly evolving as a coach and learning more and more and more. And I still have so much to learn compared to these other coaches that I coach with. Their football IQ is so far ahead of me. You know what I mean? And my life had so much turmoil around it. And part of me was just like, I just wanted to okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I had a hard time coming home and being present. Shell was not fully on board initially. And I had all these different issues going on. And I said to myself, my whole reason for coaching was if I could take young men and get them where I am spiritually, right? Without going through making the conscious bad decisions that I made from the time I was 16 to 30, right? If I can do that and get them further along their path without going through what I went through, well then, hey, that's awesome. That's really what my main goal was with coaching. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, that now I felt like I was more discerned, where I said, okay, this turmoil is trying to get me to quit, because what if there's one kid that I change? You know what I mean? What if there's one kid who doesn't take the path that I took? Whether it was promiscuity, alcohol, drug, all the above. Right?
Yeah.
What if there's one kid that instead stays on the straight and narrow, right? And I think there is going to be, which is why there was so much turmoil. And it's still hard as hell. I mean, it's another 25, 30 hour a week job, but what worthwhile is it?
Yeah. And I also think too, when it comes to coaching, I actually just recently had Coach Jones, which was my head football
coach. Did you get him on?
Yep.
Oh, I got to listen to that one.
So he was just on a few weeks ago, but he was my head coach playing football in high school. And I think one of the big things on coaches that I feel that makes a big difference from a great coach to a mediocre coach is when you talk about growing and progressing all the time. A lot of times people forget that kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for on what they pay attention to and what they watch. Yeah. To where it's like they're much more aware of what's going on. For when they see a coach that is balking orders at them all the time, they're not actively doing what they're talking about. Yeah, you need to progress. You need to grow. You need to do this. You need to do that. But a lot of time a coach isn't actually doing that themselves.
They're being hypocrites.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was one of the reasons I started the podcast. I was a fucking hypocrite. I was telling all these business owners, I'm like, you need to be in front of the camera. You need to be doing this, that. I literally was standing in the mirror one day. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm the hypocrite.
Right.
Because I'm not doing it.
Here, I remember times where I was listening to Simone talk to kids, listen to another coach talk to the kids. And then it was almost like a refresher for me and then I would start taking what I was hearing them say to the kids and then applying it to my own life.
Yeah.
You forget.
You do.
You forget little things, you know, and you may make a comment to a kid, say, hey, there are no little things. You know, if everything's equal, the people who do the little things are going to win, you know, just comments like that.
Small stuff. And then, but that, like you talk about Simone, like we talked about Coach Jones, like I'm going to the gym once I get done here. When I go to the gym and I go at 10:30 at night, you know who the one person a lot of times I do see there? Simone. Like, but it's like he's there putting in the work.
Yeah.
Like I've known him for a
No
long.
one is out working.
That's the same way
No one.
I live by. Like I live by someone. Like I don't believe someone can outwork me.
On a football field, no
Right.
one's out working. We may
Yeah.
get out coached. It's happened. It happens to everyone. If you're not
Yeah.
getting out coached, you're probably not coaching against the right people.
Yeah.
Okay. We may get outplayed. We're not going to get outworked. That guy, I think sometimes he thinks like, man, this would suck. No one else is going to do this. We're doing it.
But that's like it's a way that your brain's like wired. Like April, I got right off the couch and ran a half marathon. I'm 275 pounds. If no one is looking at me thinking runner, like I know that, and every single person was like, "No way."
Yeah.
And literally, my dad was like, "He'll do it." And they're like, everyone's like, "What do you mean?" Like this is like 4 weeks before. I was going to Mexico the week before. I was smoking cigars, drinking whiskey in Mexico the week up to it. And they're like, he is not running that. And my dad's like, if he wants to do it, he'll do it. And it was probably some of but it was just like, I felt like it was going to be so hard. That's why I wanted to do it. Like, because you go conquer something like that. I'll take every 275-pound guy that's sitting on the couch and I'll go race every one of them.
Right.
And I'm going to blow their doors off. Like, just because I'll take that hard on. Like, I want that hard work. I want that level there.
Right.
And it's like, that's something I've always respected Simone for. Like, I know he's that kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's,
you know,
and he doesn't have to tell people that. Like, I feel like when you're in the gym, you're putting in the work, you're doing that, you're putting in the time, like, it starts showing. Like, successful people don't have to go around and tell everyone they're successful.
he literally will go home and he will watch every single practice. And then he'll watch the JV practice. And then he'll watch the freshman game. Then he'll watch the JV game. And then he'll watch the varsity game. I mean, there is not a detail that guy's going to miss. He'll text me and be like, hey, did you see so-and-so at practice today? I'm like, no, I didn't, man. But I'll go look now that you're saying something, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch the previous week's game, and then I watch the team that we're playing the following. And other than that, I just can't I don't have the time to do it, really.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where he finds the time. I don't think he sleeps during football season.
See, that's one thing that I am very against too, is I don't take the I don't have time excuse.
Right. Okay, I get you.
Like that's my biggest pet peeve. I don't allow it in my office. I don't allow it. Like I do not want to fucking hear somebody tell me they don't got time.
All right, I'll never
And,
say it again.
Because when I was in the car business, I told myself that for 3 years. I didn't go to the gym at all. I just said I didn't have the time. I wasn't disciplined enough, and I looked at it as an excuse for myself. And it's like I could leave here and say, "Hey, I don't have time to go to the gym." But it's like, am I the 1%er that's going to be putting in the work? Because guess what? There's going to be there's somebody coming from my spot. No matter where you're at on that mountain that you're climbing, somebody's behind you and someone's in front of you.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what are you putting in? And it's like, that time there's time to make things happen. It's just, where do you prioritize your time and what you're going to do with it? So it's, I don't know, that's a pet peeve of mine.
You make me feel bad.
Do you watch any Netflix?
I don't hear. I'm going to be honest with you. So my wife's going to get mad at me because I'll come home every night. I'll shower. I'll get in bed, and I'm out every single night. I'm asleep before my head hits the pillow. I'm up at 5. I go till 9 o'clock.
I do see you in the gym all the time, so you're
I'm there every day.
you're there.
At least 5 days a week.
Yeah. I flip flop from evenings and mornings, and I jack my
I
week
gotta
all
get it
up.
done in the morning. If I don't get it done in the morning, I ain't going.
Yeah.
But I come home. Now, I may turn the TV on, but 100% it'll take me 5 nights to watch one movie.
So I used to be really bad about making an excuse about reading. That I was like, well, I just didn't have time to get it done this week. And then I caught myself, and I realized it happening one day when I was at work. Have you watched Suits?
I haven't watched. Is it good?
Oh, it's a little too addicting. But we're at the office, and I literally I implemented this probably about 5-6 months ago. That we're at the office, and I'm literally talking about. I just got done telling everyone I didn't have time to read my book, and then 15 minutes later, we're all talking about Suits, what season we're on, about watching this and that. I was like, well, yes, I did have time to read my book. I'm like, I just didn't prioritize my time correctly on because watching Suits didn't do anything for me, and it didn't elevate me anywhere.
No. If
I would have spent that time I did watching 9 seasons of Suits, at what, an hour an episode? I mean, no. This is what we're supposed to have TV figure out how many hours of Suits are out there, how much time I wasted.
How many episodes per season, Drew? Let's figure it out. Let's actually start season 1.
Yeah, let's just start watching. Yeah, so we're going to see about how much time I really wasted. And this is going to get you to where you don't want to watch it. You're going to read a book instead.
2011 to 2019, 134 hours, Dane.
Oh my God.
That's assuming each of them's an hour per episode.
They're pretty close. So we're going to round up.
So we'll call it 134 hours.
That's how much time I wasted. Do what?
You didn't have
No time.
Yeah.
So those are things I look at when people say I don't have time.
Did you binge watch it? Is it as good as like Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Really?
Yeah,
because Sons of Anarchy, this was before like Amazon.
See, he said earlier he didn't have time. Now he's talking about Sons of Anarchy.
I did watch Sons of Anarchy. Here, I'm going to tell you something. I'll tell you right now, the 3 series that I watched couldn't stop. Okay, Sopranos, Sons of Anarchy, and Game of Thrones.
I'm not a Game of Thrones
fan. Dude.
My brother has tried to get me on it for...
You got to get to season 3.
God knows how long.
You got to get to season 3. It may be the best series that was ever out there. Better than Sons of Anarchy, better than The Sopranos. It was awesome. And I'm not a sci-fi guy.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I thought it was awesome.
Well, Suits is probably... It's a top 3 competitor out there.
Suits, I'll give it a shot.
No, you're going to read instead. I was like,
what am I going to read?
Or you're going to watch film. You're going to try to compete with old Simone. You got to watch film now.
You can't compete with that guy.
No,
He's a savage.
Yeah,
he's a savage. I can't fool with him.
Yeah. Well, you can watch 134 hours worth of film.
I probably average about 15, 20 a week.
Okay. So
a lot of times my ADD kicks in.
Yeah.
After, I usually watch like 3 hours on Saturday and then another 3 hours on Sunday. And then I catch an hour and a half every day, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, add that up. An hour and a half times 5. What is that? 7.5.
See, everyone always does this to me when I'm on podcasts where I'm like thinking about so I'm always thinking about like where the conversation's going, like how it's running, things like that. And then out of the blue, someone throws me like a math question. And it happened on the last one. I literally got done talking to people about like my degrees and stuff. And they're like, oh, so you're probably pretty good at math. I'm like, yeah. And then we're like talking. And I'm like, they hit on something. I was like, how can I lead that into the next thing? And I was like, I felt like the topic was like kind of winding down. And then at the end of it, they hit me with this math question. And he like looks at me and I'm like, I don't even know what numbers he said. His wife's on. She's like, I thought you said you're good at math. I'm like, well, now I look like a dipshit.
Yeah, so it's more like 13 hours.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you he watches. Oh, man. I bet he watches 30 hours of film a week. He has to. So.
What it takes.
If you guys call my time, it goes back to my asset. So sometimes stepping out and saying, you know what? Not today. It don't make you less of a person. It just you understand your value system, what you have. Like you had children, 134 episodes probably wasn't
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah.
kids are, more valuable. Asset is fleeting, and it always is fleeting.
100%.
So it's almost like, sometimes you got to have a reset.
Yeah.
134 hours therapeutic, and you came in hot.
Yeah.
Well, and here, for me, I bet you I watch, let's say, throughout the whole week, just TV, figure a half hour. Right? So what's that, 10 hours a week? That's all I watch. About 10 hours of TV a week.
So mine, I have a TV and I turn it on, but a lot of times I'm going to say to a reset, not always like, so before I came here, I turned on Ballers. I've already seen it.
With The Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've already seen it. I just turned it on. That I started meetings at 7 o'clock this morning. I've been back to back and things all the time. That when I got home, I grabbed an energy drink. Madison made me food. I sat there. I told her, I was like, I don't want to talk for like the next hour and a half before I leave. And she's like, I'm like, I got to kind of reset, get myself kicked back on to go jump on a podcast. That sometimes when like we podcast at the house, like, and if I've had like tomorrow, I'm podcasting tomorrow night at my house. So tomorrow, once again, I'll have a full day. I have a coaching group that I do coaching calls every Wednesday morning. So like, I'll have that tomorrow morning, and then I have meetings throughout the whole entire day. I have an hour gap that I'm going to come home and sit in my garage by myself.
That's awesome.
Just in quiet. I like listening to classical music. I'll sit there just to like kind of reset my head, because it's like, it's fried sometimes. Sometimes I'm like in conversations. If I have enough meetings in a day, I'm like at a 5 o'clock meeting and somebody's talking to me. I'm like, my head's not even like processing this, right? And they're like, what do you think we should do in this? I'm like, great fucking question. I don't know.
Send me a text.
Yeah.
Remind me to look at it.
So
yeah. And here that's presents even more of a problem when it's your wife.
yeah.
And that at that point you just got to be honest and say, listen, I need 20 minutes.
She's the same way though. Like Madison will go out and she'll have clients all day. She'll be showing, and she comes home and she's like, all right. And we just gotta take our different areas and
then you can just reconnect.
Yep. But
what else you got for me?
I was wondering if we actually came to a name. Did we come to a conclusion?
What did you like, Drew? You like to sit down, didn't you?
I like to sit down, but I think it's something that needs to be chewed on.
Dane, what is DW? I gotta call you DW.
I'm gonna make one request though. On the next one, I think we should leave the AC on.
Here, do you want to try it right now?
Yeah.
I'll tell my wife to turn it on and see how much feedback we get.
But I think we need some soundproof. There's some
How the hell do you do that?
Yeah.
I think
Phone?
as long as
what do you got a phone guy, you get a price, get it at a price.
we have AI now that'll block out all background.
Let's get Michelle. What do you hear this one? Darling, turn the air on. I want to see if we get any feedback down here from it. Okay, thank you.
You'll hear a background hum.
So I have a fridge in my garage that we thought was going to be like, no, you did yours in the office. Did you see how we just had that? They're going to think we had a technical glitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here,
I don't know. That can be edited out easy.
You think so?
Yep.
Because I did not think it was going to get this hot.
And
it's hot as shit.
I'm a pretty big guy too, so like I get a little warm.
Yeah.
I just run pretty hot temperature.
I was like, an hour. It won't get hot in an hour. And it did.
Yeah. And the leather couch, I don't think.
Yeah.
Your thighs are just stuck.
I'm just stuck to it right now. I'm staying here for the night.
We'll chew on the name. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I'm leaning like you, Drew. Dane, where are you at?
So short. Like you're not like a
Here,
long time guy.
Oh.
let's make sure that it's not a podcast already too.
And simple. And
Like if I was a rock star, I would be like share.
like
Just
you,
share.
like you the name it. You like whatever you are. The name.
An asshole.
Hey, the sit down is already a podcast.
No shit.
It's a crime history podcast.
Well, there you go. There you go. So we don't want to get that guy coming after. Who's the guy?
Jeff.
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 No,
Jeff.
Jeffrey.
There's no Jeffrey that's running a crime
Nadeau.
podcast.
Jeff Nadeau.
Jeff Nadeau has a podcast called The Sit Down.
Now we're going to have to pay him royalties for this shit.
Yeah, well, so much for that. Okay, so that's out.
Maybe our viewer count's just not high enough.
What about, well, we're going to have to, we got to call it something at some point.
I mean, just kind of like Dane said
The
on his
basement.
podcast when he was having you on there. He's like, this started out as a marketing podcast. And it's turned into something completely different. And I think leaving it open for general, interpretation. People are coming to see you ask questions, but yet your guests are going to tell their story and it's going to be captivating. So, I mean, I feel like some people might be really hitting their struggle hard, and it might be something they came through, but again, success is subjective. What you view as success might not be what I view as success.
100%.
What Frank views success might not be what I, or Dane, DW view as success. So I feel like, when we're talking monetary success, that has a different, vibe in the name. I feel like what you're doing is uncovering people's stories and people living that impact other stuff. I don't know, man. I feel like I like your the way your head's wrapped around it.
But some of the stories are light, right? Like here, one guy. Let's take for example, Manu, right? I want to get Manu on this thing. That's a guy that came to the country to play volleyball and ended up playing NFL football for the Cleveland Browns for 6 seasons. I gotta know the ins and outs of that story. Okay, now did he maybe go through some shit? Yeah, he might have, probably. Was it something as severe as some of the shit that I've been through, or some of the other guests that I know have been through? I don't know. I don't know the whole story, but
What
not
about
all of them are going to have.
what about behind the highlight reel?
But that would make the assumption that they're all going to be athletes, and that's not the case. Like here,
I have a highlight reel. I'm not an athlete.
you sure were.
I was, but I'm saying my highlight reel has nothing to do with athletics. Everyone has a highlight reel. What's it in? Your family? Is it? Your family can be your highlight reel.
'Cause here, take-
Everyone has a different one.
Dr. Jim Marvin. I got to get him on here. He was the at the forefront of the clinical research for the Pfizer vaccine. Got to hear the story.
Yeah. So it's like you look at everyone has a highlight reel, or like that's the same as what your story is. You're just sharing your highlights of your story. To where it's like that's the thing is you have these guys on that have
But
a
it's
story.
the connotation where it seems like if I look at behind the highlight reel, I'm immediately going to think sports. So then I'm going to
I agree.
and then I'm going to sit down and it's going to be something. And I'm going to say, what the hell is this guy even talking about, right? So I don't.
The hidden journey.
Again, I feel like that's too success business driven. Where I think that not that the title is being.
Maybe we need to call this Nadeau and have a sit down with him and tell him, look, now the name's ours.
Yeah. Yeah. We
trademark.
Yeah.
Trademark. Give it a punch and leave the trademark.
What about the
I buy him out.
what about the See, every time I think of one, I feel like I gotta search it because
I just find like physicians might not be success in their eyes is patient care, which is
Hold on, this guy had nothing to do. We have Jim Marvin. Jim was clinical research, but Rob Marvin was. I'm going to get him on here too. Yeah, anesthesiologist for cardiothoracic surgery.
if you talk to Lingenfelder and you ask him about success, I don't know that monetary values what drove him to be the excellent physician he is today.
No, that was a byproduct. Yeah, it was just a byproduct. He just he wanted to be the
what if you call it
master of his craft.
we call it pathways, journeys through life.
Too
Yeah.
long. It's too
Well, you
long.
could call it just pathways then.
I feel like it's I don't.
Unwritten pages.
Let's ask ChatGPT.
That's what I'm on right now.
Yeah, they got all kinds of.
I don't know. I want it short and sweet. I want it short and sweet.
I feel like
Maybe
unwritten.
we could
I feel like unwritten pages is pretty cool.
when we release the first one, we can get some.
You definitely have to have a name before the first one.
Well,
Well, this is the first one.
Yeah, before this drops, we have to have a name.
We have to.
Yeah, we got to build all the platforms for it to roll out.
Right.
you got to define kind of what it looks like. But that's it. You got to take an inventory.
At this point, we just got to call it the fiasco. The Frank Termini fiasco. What's that say?
The Italian guy.
The Italians. Oh shit, that's funny. That's funny. I just don't want to. I want it to be vague enough that you can have a diverse group of people on here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you want to have an astrophysicist on who's going to talk about theoretical physics, I mean, you could have that guy on, and it's not.
And I know enough to just be dangerous to be able to ask some questions and not know what he means when he's answering. You know, I don't want to back myself into a corner where I could say, well, here, this guy's he's not, going with the title, right? It's got to be vague.
I mean, the best podcasts have the host, but it's very difficult to brand a host before he's actually.
So, yeah, a podcast, a lot of times, like, the host is the brand of it. Like, as mine is transpired to what it has, people listen to it because they know I'm going to be on it each week. But it's like the reels that you're catching all the time, a large portion of them are of me going into my insights, things like that. So it's the people listen to Joe Rogan because it's Joe Rogan all the time.
And it was first to market.
Do what?
And it was first to market.
Yeah, he has some
but it's-
badass guests on there.
He has badass guests, which also
Badass guests.
what that does is it starts. The really cool thing about podcasts is you're getting to leverage other people's audiences. So that's how I've acquired a lot of my following on Instagram. Is I have you on the podcast, I have whoever, and then I take their Instagram, I collab with them on Instagram. I have collab videos, and then all of a sudden, like, if I have somebody pretty big on and I collab with them, I'll get 200 followers overnight off one video that just went onto their page. Now I just leverage their audience, and now I just got 200 extra people of their audience that now know who I am.
Right.
And then it's like, out of those 200 people, maybe I catch 50. They're like, hey, I really like this podcast. I like what he had to say. I like the way he thinks. I'm going to start listening to the podcast all the time.
Right.
So that's what you're doing is, like, as you grow, you're collecting those followers along the path. And that's holding them in that traffic area of that funnel. That you've already caught the exposure at the top. Now they're in traffic. They're watching your reels all the time. You may have a guest on that. They watch a reel and they're like, hey, you know what? I wasn't really intrigued with that. Or that you put a reel up and that I have people reach out all the time. They're like, that's how everyone knew Coach Jones was on there.
I want to watch that one.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in.
Sorry, guys.
You know what? This guy right here, he's out. We're in.
I mean, I just want to see how many views he's got.
I mean, he does decent.
Like, how do you read? You can read that?
He's got 43,000
there?
subscribers.
Yeah, he sure does.
If he had like 8 videos, I'd say we just take it.
Hold on, let me see some of the other guys. Hey, that's the guy that played. Go down a little lower, Andrew.
Are you
What's
talking
that
about?
say? Sammy the. Oh, that's Sam Volgravano. And then he's got who else?
Hey, this might be. He just got a new follower. He got Frank as a new follower.
Is that? Does that say Joe Giovanni?
He knows a lot of dangerous people. So.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, you just ditched your podcast and you just found a new podcast to listen to. Frank's like, instead of doing this, I'm just going to sit down in my chair and watch this with the new TV I got. Well, we probably come up with a name.
Well, gosh darn it, I don't know, guys. I was just fumbling through my phone. You know what, Dane?
Hey, is Stories of Life one? I feel like that's got to be.
Absolutely.
What?
Absolutely.
If we're the first ones to think of that. Oh, yeah. No?
Let's see if this is. I like 2 single syllable words. If I like sit down,
Is this not a podcast?
single syllable words. Like,
Did we just figure out? I don't.
I'm looking at Through the Fire. I was just kind of threw that out there. But that's just see the podcast because what you're talking about is anybody's burning desire for success, story of struggle, heat.
don't make me stick with the Frank T podcast.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Hey, I think Stories of Life is available. I think it was so simple no one thought of it.
So obvious.
It was so obvious, it was right there, and they just didn't think of it. I'm on Spotify, I can't find it.
I can't find it on. I got a story of life. Podcast about story.
I'm going to have to chew on it.
I think
I have absolutely no idea. You sure you're going to be able to edit out that?
oh yeah.
Well,
It-
wish you'd have known that the whole damn time, Dane.
I know I've been about 30 degrees cooler the whole time.
Oh man, it feels great down here when that air's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels great. Well, you know what? We're gonna chew on it. We got plenty of guests lined up.
Yep.
I got a great marketer.
Something. Who said that?
Me. I got a great sales guy. I got great IT guys.
You can't move forward with the first episode to it.
That's
But I don't want to hear.
that's
But here, if you make a rash decision,
hey, or you can think of something that's longer, and then we could look. That's what I've done with all my stuff. I got MMG and I got the M3 podcast. It's Moss Marketing Mondays.
well, that's right. I remember that. That's right.
So everyone knows the M3 podcast. Half people don't even know what it means, which made it pretty easy when I transitioned into everything else. Like, oh yeah, okay, whatever.
Well, we have to edit this one first, right?
Yeah,
So, how long does that take?
not that long.
Well, can we make it take like 3 days?
But yep, we can. What is today? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah,
We can have it named by Friday, right?
yeah.
Don't you think?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I think we can have it named by Friday.
I mean, I've been shooting out. I mean, just bangers, and you're just bam, bam. No,
Can't have a bunch of yes men around.
no yes men around here. No one is going to say yes on anything.
I'm going to call that guy and tell him that podcast that name's mine.
It looks like he's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Like I think YouTube's probably paying him
43,000 views?
43,000 subscribers.
Okay, here, but look at it. I mean, everybody loves gangster movies. If a gangster movie came out next week, everybody would go watch it. And it's the same story every time.
The Frank T Gangster podcast?
No.
No,
Dang, absolutely not.
You said everyone loves gangsters.
They do. They all love gangster movies, right? I mean, there's been.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of them are out there? I mean,
Good ones.
oh come on, give me a bad one.
Frank, there's some shit out there.
Okay, hold on. Give me a bad gangster movie. Go ahead.
Okay, so the
Go on.
Adam Sandler's worst movie.
That is. He did not play a bad gangster.
It was a terrible movie.
You know,
Andrew wasn't very good, but he
spent
played a
the
good
entire
gangster.
time screaming.
He played a good gangster.
you know what's funny is people are going to listen to this.
Tale, fantastic. Goodfellas, American Gangster, both Godfathers. The Godfather's the only sequel that was better than the first one.
People are going to listen to this and they're like, the first 45 minutes were pretty dialed in. And they're like, it just went rogue as fuck.
Wait,
Who else?
Like they started looking up gangster movies.
I'll tell you right now. We'll find out.
What? Name a bad one. Scarface, awesome.
Matter of fact, name one that's not a classic. Worst gangster movie. Okay, come on. Let me see. Let's see what they got to say on the screen rank here. All right. Nobody even knows that stupid movie because it sucks. Gangster. Come on, Andrew. This doesn't count as a gangster movie. None of those movies count as gangster movies. Smoking Aces was bad. It was so bad. It was so bad. Well, I wouldn't consider it a gangster movie. I mean, you know.
If they're bad, they're not considered gangster movies.
Staten Island, Little New York, stupid. City. That's like a 1950s movie. No one even knows that.
You know what you might be onto? You might just do a podcast where you guys review movies.
Yeah.
People would probably watch the shit out of that. And you make him just some like fictitious figure that no one actually really ever sees. That like have the video on you the whole time.
Here, you know what? Shame on me. Absolutely terrible. God, it's terrible.
Terrible. They gave it 0%.
0%. Here. That is the worst fucking gangster movie of all time. Do you know why? Because Armand Asante was a better John Gotti than John Gotti. Johnson, you cannot even try to compete with him. He did. Yeah. It was perfect.
I don't even think I've seen it, and it got 0%.
Here,
I'm going to say I'm not going to waste my time. You know, we were talking about time. I'm not wasting it there.
Here, that's terrible. But I will say this: the 1996 with Armand Asante was fantastic. And then Anthony Quinn, Armand Asante.
Have you seen The Goonies? Great movie.
Great movie. Yeah, for sure. Classic. My kids love Goonies.
Yeah.
My kids love.
He was calling me a child there.
Well, at least we know that Gotti's the worst gangster movie of all time. No. The new Gotti. The old Gotti is good. Right, the new Gotti. Yeah, the new Gotti. John Travolta's Gotti was awful. But he's great in Heat. John Travolta's not in Face Off. Sorry. Not really a gangster. He is in Face Off. Yeah, good movie though.
We're going to get these to edit them, and they're going to be like, why is it 2.5 hours? And, like, and then the editors going to get it, and they're like,
here, in the interest of me not getting divorced, we will end the podcast right now.
That's actually going to be the very front of it that we're going to put.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll end the podcast right now. Dane, you're the man.
Thank you for having me on.
Hey, listen, you'll be on again. Thank you so much. Thanks for everything you're going to do for us. And hopefully with the brilliant minds we have, I think we can make this thing work out.
I look forward to it. I think it's something that I've said before. You were great on our podcast. You have a great story. I think you have a lot of people in your circle that have great stories. And I think when those are told, I think it helps a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are going to want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Me too. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Peace.